Welcome to the realm of science fiction. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more content. Enjoy listening. Thomas Masterson was busy showing off the newly built cabin he had designed with great care. The triangular-roofed wooden structure was perfect for the quietude and peace of the winter months. Located in the heart of a snow-covered forest, it seemed like something out of a fairy tale when its lights glowed in the evening. Thomas had decided to share this cabin with others, naming his project Bungalow Escape and promoting it online. One evening, he received a notification on his phone. A customer wanted to rent the cabin. Thomas opened the screen and saw a name, Pyra. The message was brief and to the point. "Hello, I'd like to rent your cabin tonight. I plan to arrive around 10 p.m. Pyra. The late hour and the mysterious nature of the request piqued Thomas's interest. Though it was an unusual request, it seemed like a good opportunity to start the rental process. "Hello, Pyra, I've confirmed your reservation. No problem with arriving late. See you soon," he replied. As evening fell, Thomas stepped outside to check the cabin. Snowflakes had begun to fall gently, and the cabin's lights created a magical atmosphere amidst the white surroundings. After making sure everything inside was perfect, Thomas waited outside. At exactly 10 o'clock, he heard footsteps approaching from the distance. A woman with pink hair and an unconventional outfit was walking toward the cabin. Thomas immediately recognized that she was an alien. After years of working at the Space Science Council, he knew exactly what to look for. Pyra seemed to be defying the winter cold, wearing nothing but a pair of shorts and a bustier. Thomas watched her, both startled and captivated. Her eyes were locked onto the warm lights of the cabin, and there was something indescribably alluring about her presence, both unsettling and enchanting. "Hello, Pyra, right?" Thomas asked, unable to hide his surprise in his voice. The woman paused for a moment, gazing at him with a faint smile. "Yes, Pyra. The cabin is really impressive," she said. Her tone, warm and soft despite the cold, had an enigmatic quality. Yet there was something hidden behind her gaze that Thomas couldn't quite understand. Pyra's mysterious demeanor sparked many questions in his mind. Who was this woman? Why had she chosen such an odd time and location to rent a cabin? Thomas pushed aside his curiosity and began showing her around the cabin. "Come on in. It's warm inside," he said. As they entered, Thomas followed silently behind her, his mind still racing. Pyra, not only in her attire but also in her grace and the way she moved, didn't seem like an ordinary person. The warm air hit Pyra's face as she entered, and she smiled lightly. "It's truly impressive. Exactly what I expected," she said, pretending to warm her hands, but showing no sign of being cold. Thomas furrowed his brow. "Pyra, don't you feel cold in this outfit with such weather?" he asked, trying to gauge her reaction. Pyra turned to him, her smile still present, as if she had been expecting this question. "I think I'm used to it. I don't really feel the cold," she replied, her eyes scanning the cabin. Thomas took a few steps closer and lowered his voice, growing more serious. "Most of us aren't accustomed to the cold, especially on a freezing night like this. If you don't mind me asking, where are you really from, Pyra?" Pyra met his gaze, tilting her head slightly. "I know why you're asking, Thomas. I think you've figured it out." She took a deep breath, and her voice, now even more melodic and smooth like a musical note, responded, "No, I'm not human. I come from somewhere else, what you might call space." Thomas paused, momentarily speechless. Though it was the answer he had expected, her candid admission made it feel like a mundane matter. "So, why are you here? And why did you choose to rent my cabin?" he asked, both curious and slightly stunned. Pyra briefly turned toward the window, gazing out at the silence of the snow. "Where I'm from, everything is perfect, technology, wealth, comfort, but nothing is real. I wanted a world where things were felt, experienced, where everything doesn't just come to me, where I have to fight for it. I came here, to your world, to experience real life, even if just for a while." Thomas listened carefully, processing her words. He understood the desire for something genuine in a world full of artificial perfection, but he was also a little unsettled. "Do you have a plan to adapt to Earth? It's not an easy place to live," he said, trying to ease the tension with a smile. This is why meeting someone like you is important, Pyra replied, her eyes warming as she met his gaze. If you don't mind, could I stay here for a while? To learn more about your world and from you, of course, as long as I'm not a bother. Thomas hesitated for a moment, finding himself unexpectedly affected by her warmth and grace. Of course, you can stay, he said, though unsure of what exactly he was agreeing to. But I should be honest with you. I worked in space science for years, and meeting someone like you is a first for me. Pyra smiled at his response, genuinely amused. Then I suppose this night will be a new beginning for both of us, she said. As the night went on, Pyra began to share more about her home planet, a place filled with technological marvels, almost like a utopia. However, she explained that in such a perfect place, people were nothing more than functional beings. Emotions, like those experienced by humans, were not deeply felt, and this always made her feel empty. Earth offered her an adventure, a freedom she longed for. Thomas, listening attentively, found himself wondering what Pyra's presence on Earth truly meant. Had she come purely out of curiosity, or was there something more to it? Pyra, Thomas asked, meeting her gaze, if it's not too personal, is Earth just an experiment for you, or are you thinking about staying here? Pyra smiled faintly, her head shaking slightly. I don't know, she admitted. I can't say what I'll find in this world yet, but for now, I'm happy where I am. Thomas felt a shift in the air as he heard her words. Something was changing, and he realized that Pyra was not just a guest, she had become something much more. As the evening progressed, Pyra's presence grew more enchanting, and her touch seemed to communicate something far beyond the physical. As they spent more time together, their connection deepened. Pyra introduced Thomas to more aspects of her world, describing space technologies and fascinating stories from her planet. Thomas, despite the vast differences between their worlds, found himself in awe of her ability to adapt to human life. One evening, Pyra approached him with a new idea. Thomas, I've learned so much about you, but what truly fascinates me is the connection you've built with this cabin. The way you want people to come here and find peace. Have you ever thought about taking this to a bigger scale? Thomas, surprised by the sudden direction of the conversation, asked, What do you mean? Pyra's excitement was palpable. What if we did this in space? Where I'm from, many people long for real emotions and experiences. People would pay a fortune to visit Earth and experience something real. Your design, your vision, let's take it to space. We could work together and build our lives around this. For a moment, Thomas was taken aback by the sheer scale of Pyra's proposal. But then, seeing her enthusiasm and determination, he felt inspired. Space cabin rentals? He asked, still in disbelief. How would we even begin? Pyra snapped her fingers. We have all the technology we need. We can start immediately. All you have to do is say yes. Thomas stood silently, pondering the gravity of Pyra's words. Her proposal seemed like something out of a dream, a concept so vast it felt impossible. Yet, when he looked into Pyra's eyes, he saw a fire, certainty that suggested she wasn't just speaking out of whimsical fantasy. She believed it, and somehow he found himself beginning to believe it too. Space, a cabin business in space? He echoed, his voice filled with awe. How would that even work? I'm a cabin designer, not a space engineer. Pyra's smile deepened, and she placed a gentle hand on his arm. I know you're more than just a designer. You have a vision for peace, for warmth in a cold world. My world... She paused, her eyes clouding for a moment as if remembering something distant, something painful. My world is perfect, but it's also lifeless. I've learned that perfection doesn't bring happiness. People crave something real, something that makes them feel alive. You can offer that. We can offer that. Her words had a magnetic pull on him, and slowly, as if stepping into the unknown, Thomas nodded. All right, let's do it. The months that followed felt like a whirlwind. With Pyra's advanced technology and Thomas's designs, they began working on a new, more fantastical version of the bungalow Kakamaji. This time with a twist, it would float through the stars. Pyra introduced Thomas to beings from her home planet who were more than happy to lend their expertise. scientists, engineers, and architects who had worked on space stations and galactic innovations. Together, they began constructing the first of many cabins that would eventually form a traveling resort, drifting between planets, stars, and celestial wonders. Thomas was amazed by the technology that Pyra and her people had access to. The cabins were built with materials that could adapt to any environment, shielding them from the harshest elements of space, but still providing the same cozy, homely feel of the original cabin. The walls were transparent, giving guests a panoramic view of distant galaxies, nebulae, and even the occasional asteroid shower. It was as if the universe itself had become a living painting that could be viewed at will. But even as the cabins took shape, so did the bond between Thomas and Pyra. Every day, Thomas found himself falling deeper into her world. Her insights into the universe, her calm yet powerful presence, and the tenderness she showed him made it impossible to see her as anything but his equal, his partner. One evening, as they watched the construction of the cabins from a high balcony aboard a massive space station, Pyra turned to Thomas with a thoughtful expression. She said softly, "When I first came to Earth, I thought I was seeking something new, something real. But now I realize it wasn't just Earth I was after. It was you, and not just your world. It was the way you see life, the way you create." Thomas smiled, his heart swelling. He had come to realize that Pyra had always been more than just an alien from another world. She was his muse, his inspiration. She had opened his eyes to possibilities beyond his wildest imagination. "I never imagined that a decision to build a simple cabin in the woods would lead me here," Thomas said, his voice full of wonder. "But I'm glad it did. You've changed my life, Pyra." Her smile was soft and knowing. "And you've changed mine." As the cabins were ready for their first voyage, Pyra and Thomas stood together on the observation deck of the station, looking out into the vastness of space. The Bungalow Kakamaji galactic version was now a reality. It wasn't just a business. It was an experience, a bridge between worlds. Guests would board, both human and alien, seeking to escape the monotony of their lives and find something beyond their expectations. They would look out into the endless cosmos, breathe in the fresh, artificial air of the cabins, and feel the warmth of the stars surrounding them. They would leave with a sense of fulfillment, having experienced what it was like to live in harmony with the universe, if only for a little while. The first voyage was a success beyond what they had hoped for. The cabin's popularity grew, and before long, they were booking trips for beings from all corners of the galaxy. Yet, despite the increasing demand and the thriving business, Thomas and Pyra never lost sight of the reason they had started this venture in the first place: to connect, to share, and to experience something genuine together. One night, as they sat in one of the cabins watching a distant star explode in the distance, Pyra turned to Thomas. Her eyes glistened with the reflection of the cosmic light. She said, her voice filled with quiet certainty, "This is more than I ever imagined. More than just a business. It's a dream come true." Thomas reached out, taking her hand. "We built this together. And we'll keep building. We'll keep discovering new ways to make this real. To make life real." Pyra leaned her head on his shoulder, her breath warm against his skin. "Together, Thomas, we'll keep building." And as the stars flickered outside their window, a new chapter began for them both. A journey without an end, just an endless stretch of discovery, love, and connection. Together, they would continue to bring people to the warmth of their cabins, and in the process, discover more about themselves and each other than they had ever dreamed possible. Under the light of distant galaxies, with a vast universe at their fingertips, Thomas and Pyra shared a quiet, knowing smile. This was their new beginning, and the universe, vast and infinite, was theirs to explore. Together,